Hey, what's going on guys? It's Xelu, and today I did the thing again. I turned my mic on and just talked about whatever came to mind. Today it happened to be The Legend of Korra. I feel like people treat The Legend of Korra like doo-doo, and I just had a couple of things to say about it. Now, there are a little bit of spoilers, so if you haven't seen the show, here's a quick review. It's excellent. Watch it from beginning to end. There's 4 seasons. Go do that and then come back to this video. See if you agree. But before we start, dude, we've just reached 52 subscribers. That's 52 people who give a shit about what I'm doing here, you know? So yeah, this is really motivating to me. I feel like I'm gonna pass 100 really soon. And who knows, maybe I'll get to 1,000, maybe 10, maybe 1,000,000. So I'm gonna continue to upload every week and hopefully we can make this thing last, you know? I just wanna say thank you. Now without further ado, let's get right into the video. I'm gonna try and defend Korra's honor as best I can. You know, I'm not all that organized a speaker, but here we go, alright? I like this show because it does its job superbly. The Legend of Korra is a sequel. What do you expect to get out of a sequel? You expect to get more of a world that you already love, more from the characters you already love, right? Yeah, they could have just done a sequel with Aang and friends, right? But I don't know, sometimes it's good to go on and do something different. And in my opinion, I feel like that's why people don't like Korra, is because they don't like getting out of their comfort zone to experience something new, you know? But yeah, the world and Avatar was so amazing and so compelling, and I'm sure the writers were like extremely proud of what they had made. Of course, the next step would be to create a show where they can further expand on that, and they did it perfectly, in my opinion. I feel like people complain about how technology grew way too fast from the time that Aang finished the war till the end of his natural lifetime. I feel like that's kind of BS, because in Avatar The Last Airbender, they were already using steam power, right? They had boats that ran off of coal. They made a giant drill that could go through the walls of Ba Sing Se. That was obviously steam powered as well. What else? They made balloons and a bunch of other different things like tanks. Earthbenders had tanks too. Like, there's just a lot going on with technology already in the Avatar universe. It was just a little bit one-sided. If you think about it, technology grows really fast in real life. Now imagine with bending, where you could just full out create electricity. They already had access to steam power. Imagine now with electricity more widespread, and you know, imagine every nation now being able to work together because there's no war. You know, imagine what that would do. I just recently started reading the Avatar comics, and keep in mind that they actually do expand a little bit on that. Like, they start showing benders in factory lineups and stuff like that. So this stuff was very well thought out, and I feel like it made perfect sense. If you still don't feel like the technology was there, or for some reason that didn't convince you, just think about how creative benders alone are, right? Like, stop thinking about like machines for a minute and think about how creative the benders in this series were, right? Katara with her octopus bending, Toph metal bending, and creating stone armor, metal armor, the way that she earth bends in general, right? She sees with earth bending. She sees by waiting and listening. She could feel the vibrations but also see it, kind of, right? I could keep on going down the list of creative benders, blood bending, swamp bending, right? Like, all these things, they take a lot of ingenuity. There's clearly people who are capable of thinking outside of the box. I think if Aang was 40 or in his 40s when he died, then what, Korra's probably, I think 16, 17, something like that. So what is that, like 60 years? That's a lot of time in a fictional universe where electricity and steam power already exist in the hands of man, you know? So there you go. That's my argument for technology not making sense or feeling weird. I feel like it's shocking. It's definitely a shock to see it with your own eyes at first, but it's not crazy for it to have happened. I think perhaps my favorite thing that's been expanded on in this world was the Avatar origin story, right? Introduced to Avatar 1 and Rava and Vaatu and all that stuff. Like, I really feel like just off those 2 episodes alone, that could have been a series. I think everybody agrees, like, Avatar 1 could have had a series of its own. I don't feel like it's like better than Korra or anything. It's just another Avatar story. I love every Avatar story. Roku could have had his own show. I think every Avatar could have their own show because they have their own life and they're all so different from Aang that it automatically makes them interesting. But of course, nobody wants to think that about Korra, right? But through the Avatar origins, we also learn more about the spirit world and spirits in general and how they interact with the world. I actually am still kind of confused because Korra opened the portal, so now spirits and humans can kind of like go in and out. But does that mean that the humans used to live in the spirit world too? I don't know. That's the only thing I'm confused about, but I still appreciate it. Giving me something to think about is always a good thing. Now onto the characters. I think everyone is always hooked on whether or not Aang is better than Korra, if he's a better character, a better avatar, who's more powerful, who's more intelligent. I'm gonna keep on saying there's gonna be like the same theme throughout the whole video. I don't think one is better than the other. They're different people, right? A lot of people in real life are not Shaolin monks, right? So you would argue, like, you watching this video, you probably have a really hard time with issues like with your ego, maybe, or maybe your anger, something like that. Nobody's perfect. That includes Aang as well. But a lot of people didn't have the training Aang had his whole life. I felt like it was more relatable to watch Korra go through her struggles, right? She's very cocky, very brash. She thinks that she can do everything alone. But then on the other hand, she's always losing, right? But then when she wins, she usually needs somebody's help. It makes sense that somebody sheltered her whole life and is told she's the avatar would be that way. Especially she didn't master them, but she could already use 3 elements as a kid. Who wouldn't end up like Korra? And her character from the beginning to the end of season 4 was a great character change. She went from being the most confident and cocky person on the planet to having the most low self-esteem anyone could possibly have. And then it turned out like it wasn't even normal mental health issues that she had. It was like physical poison in her that was still in her body, or spirit trauma. You know what I mean? Like it's always something crazy that Korra has to deal with. And you have to consider that. Korra is a teenager who had to deal with extremely toxic environments. If you want to talk about strength, I really don't think that that's important. Not even really being technical, but I really feel like Korra is the stronger avatar. But if you want to get really technical, Aang feels more powerful. Aang does like the whole orb thing, and every time he goes into the avatar state, it's always like a supernatural phenomenon, catastrophic, like he's a part of nature, right? And then when Korra goes into the avatar state, it feels less impactful sometimes. So I can see why people would say, you know, Aang is stronger, because obviously when he's at his best, he's a little bit more dramatic. But I don't think strength was ever the point of this show. Aang had to learn all 4 elements because everybody kept telling him that's what he needed to win the war, right? But in the end, he never needed he had all the power in the world and he never needed it. All he had to do was take away Ozai's bending. Korra at the end was bending lasers and shit, like, and she became the first metal bending avatar, and she had no problem learning any of the elements until air, which after she got it, pretty much mastered it, right? But Korra being super strong from the beginning was her character flaw that she had to deal with. And I feel like that's the point of strength in Avatar. It's a strength and power and violence. It's always being used against characters to make them feel humbled to us and to teach the audience a lesson. As far as the other characters go, we're not as intimate or close with the new characters as the old cast, but that's because they're not all traveling on a giant flying bison all the time. They're all doing their own thing as people do in real life, right? In real life, people have to get jobs. In real life, people have passions, individual goals that they have to pursue. Maybe it's less entertaining, but I appreciate the realism, if I'm gonna be honest. I don't think there's people who, when shit goes down, like they're funny all the time, or people are perfect. Bolin definitely had his moments. I don't think he's funnier than Sokka, but I never compared him to Sokka. I don't know where this comes from. Like he's like a bootleg Sokka or something. Bolin is not even close to Sokka's character. He's not a negative guy who complains about everything and is accidentally funny. Bolin is just a positive dude, always smiling, always trying to make people laugh. He's just funny by accident too, but in a different way. But I don't compare him to Sokka. I say there's nobody really in this show who's like Sokka. I would say second funniest character is probably Varric. If I did have one character, I would say was kind of boring, I would say it was Mako, but he didn't make the show bad, right? I would say the bad thing about him is that you didn't notice him, so that wouldn't really mess the show up, would it? But when it comes to anything else character related in the show, like I said, I don't feel like they put emphasis on any 1 or 2 characters in the show. It's kind of leaning closer to like a Game of Thrones kind of vibe. Like there's a lot happening and it all still revolves around Korra, but they're showing us different characters so that they can show us the effects of different locations. Republic City, they show us Mako and Bolin to show, you know, the city's not perfect. It still had a little bit of corruption. It still had poverty. It still had this and that. I feel like all the characters that we're introduced to, we're not introduced to them so that we can love them, where they're all byproducts of the towns or cities that they come from. Because again, this This show is more about the world itself. So when we go to Ba Sing Se, we're not given these deep, super large backstories on these characters. We're shown a large variety of characters so we can see the effects of that nation, that town. If there are any characters that I feel like I'm personally attached to, I feel like it's the villains. The villains were some of my favorite parts of this entire show because they all had such drastic philosophies. And it's like Toph said, right? They all intended to do good, but they took their ideology too far and they were not balanced. I felt like that was so interesting, and they all had such different views and still couldn't do the right thing, you know? And not only did they do bad things trying to do good things, they all did it in super creative ways and all had this crazy plan for like world domination. But I guess it wasn't for world domination. They were all trying to get world peace, right? Last little bit I have to say about this show is that the artwork and the visuals and the sound effects, phenomenal, dude. Like the drawing style, I feel like it's faithful to the original show, but still better. Like the art in the show is just better, flat out. Like the music is better. Everything else that I've talked about so far, I've said, oh, you know, nothing is better than the other. The art in this show is better. Animation, better. Music, better. Voice acting, about the same. But if you want to think about it as like a piece of art, there's no contest. This show is just freaking clean as hell. But yeah, I don't want to keep chatting your ear off for too long. Unless you like it, let me know, you know, by liking this video and shit. Alright, well, I'm glad I got that off my chest. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos just like this. Peace.